Welcome back to the show, everyone. We are having so much fun here in the studio. We are live on Facebook, so hi to everybody out there. Like us and follow us. We'll share the show later on. We just heard my next guest ad. I have with me Patrick Kaiser, and he is the owner of Just 1%, brokered by My Home Group. Welcome to the show. I want you to tell everybody first a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yes, well, thank you for having me on. First of all, it's a lot of fun. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited
first time on the show.
And you're going to come back a few times, but you said, Carol, I really want to get out something that I want to talk about, to kind of educate the public a little bit. And I want you to tell everybody a little bit about the history of how traditionally agents got paid or get paid most of the time.
Yeah, well, I like to think of the history of real estate as if you were in a very, very small town. So if you imagine that you're in a very small town, a town that doesn't support maybe more than one real estate brokerage. And this is 50, 60 years ago, long before the days of the internet. If you were looking to sell a home, you would walk into the brokerage and you would say, hey, I'd like to sell my home. They would put your little listing for sale right on their window. And then if you were buying a home, you might drive into town, you visit the local real estate brokerage, and you take a look at the various listings that they have for sale, and they would drive you around and they would show the house, and that was pretty much it. Over time, as things evolved, if a buyer had an agent that was perhaps not an employee of that brokerage. So then, and this all really started to take shape roughly in the early 90s, relatively around the time of the internet era, but we're not quite there yet. And buyers said to themselves, hey, I would like to have my own agent. I don't want to go and work directly with the person that's employed by the seller because they obviously have the interest only of the seller in mind, not necessarily the buyers. So it evolved into this idea of buyer agency, where the buyers would come into the brokerage, they had their own agents, and in the beginning and for a long time, basically what the agents would do, the listing agents would split their commission and give it 50% over to the buyer's agent. And that's kind of how we evolved into the system now that we have, where the buyers have their own agents, but traditionally, those agents were not paid by the buyers. They've pretty much historically always been paid for by the sellers, because of that's just how the whole industry evolved.
Okay, well now I know something very crazy happened this year a little bit, and there's been a big change. What happened?
So there's been an antitrust lawsuit that was ongoing for a couple of years, but it settled last year. I don't remember exactly when, but it was sometime around March. And the results of that lawsuit, they settled it, and it was about a $500 million settlement that went to, it was particularly to the buyers of homes, as the antitrust divisions and the people that were involved in the lawsuit felt that the buyer's agent commissions were basically fixed due to this historical structure that I told you about, where the buyer's agents were always paid for by the sellers. And what happened and what that process looked like is the listing agents would list the commission for the buyer's agents on what we call the MLS. The MLS is, if you go back to my earlier example of the sheets in the tiny little broker's office, it was like that, but it was a public database for all of the brokers, especially in a large city. There's thousands of agents and hundreds, if not thousands, of brokers, and all of that gets pooled into this system that was called the MLS. Prior to last August, the buyer's agent commission was listed right there on the MLS, what they would be paid, and the buyers didn't really have to worry in most cases about paying their agent because it was listed right on the MLS what the agent would be paid. So two things changed last August, and this is when the settlement took effect. I think it was settled in March, but the result took place in August. Number one, if you're a buyer and you call an agent today, you have to sign a contract with that agent prior to seeing any homes. It is a rule nationwide if you're a member of the National Association of Realtors.
So you're with that agent no matter what, really?
Well, you have to sign a contract with that agent prior to seeing any homes, and it must state a beginning and end date and how much you're paying that agent.
Okay.
The other big change then is as I told you prior to this, that the agent's commission was listed on the MLS, and that is gone entirely. So no longer can agents check in this database to see if they're being paid for by the seller, and if they do want to get paid for by the seller, which is still the common way things are happening, because it's been happening that way for so many decades, but now that amount that the buyer's agent is paid is now negotiable as part of the purchase contract. Whereas in the old days, there was no negotiating the buyer's agent commission after it was listed on the MLS.
Well, let's talk about you.
Yeah.
And what you're planning on doing.
Let's talk about you, Carol.
Well, we can, but
Every day I think you come on this show and you talk about other people, but Who talks about you? Maybe we'll have to do
We
that
do
next time
that
I come on.
every year on my anniversary, so we'll do that another time. But
All
I
right.
do want to talk about you because I want to know that you really wanted to make a change.
Yes,
I mean, the name of your business is Just 1%.
correct.
You got to tell everybody what you mean by that.
So what we do is if you're wanting to buy a home, we charge you 1% commission. It's it. The idea of the business is very simple. There's nothing complicated about it. We're required to sign contracts with our clients the same as all the other agents are. We're just writing all of them up at 1%. The benefit of that is since the vast majority of sellers, I'd say about 95, 96%, are still offering a commission to the buyer's agent. It's not listed on the MLS anymore, but they're still willing to pay it. So any amount that the seller is willing to pay the buyer's agent that's above the amount that we charge, which is 1%, that gets credited directly back to the buyer and can be used either to reduce their closing costs or more commonly to take that money and give it over to the lender to buy down their mortgage rate. which
Well,
has
that's
been-
pretty awesome.
Yeah,
I think that's awesome. Now, and that's what you say, you specialize in helping buyers and sellers make more money and lower their monthly payments. Now, wouldn't that be nice?
yes.
And so somebody had to think about it, it might as well been you.
Yeah, I'm actually a little bit surprised that we don't see any tech companies or any, I'm not a big operator. I'm basically a traditional real estate agent. I've been here in the Valley for 8 years, and I just kind of assumed there would be some tech company or one of the big people that are out there that you already know the name of that I don't want to mention, that somebody would come along and offer something like this. And to my knowledge, there's no one else doing it. So
Wouldn't you like to just pay 1%?
yes,
Right, everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody would. Now, you're valley-wide, and you do free consultations, and let me put this phone number in your phone. Maybe it's you, maybe you know somebody who's either buying or selling a home. He is the only one that is just charging 1%.
probably. I've not interviewed all the agents around town.
Pretty much probably one of the only ones doing it here in Arizona, just 1%. Again, that number to call is 602-768-2767. The website is just1az.com. Now, I know that last week you were also on Sonoran Living talking about this. You want
Yes.
to talk about that experience?
Yeah, I've been on Sonoran Living twice now on their show. It's a much shorter segment than this, so I'm not able to go into the detail about.
No,
I think
it's
the
okay.
history
Was it
matters.
fun?
Yes, it's fun, but it's short. It really goes quickly. I
Mhm.
think it was only a 2 or 3 minute interview.
Right.
But I was on Sonoran Living speaking with them, and it's a lot more intimidating than this. They've got the lights and the
Yeah.
cameras.
It is more, definitely television is different. But here's the thing, we have people that have been listening to this show for years. And what I love about it the most, and I think I opened up the show with that, is this information that they get. And you know, one of the things that I know about people is they write stuff down, right? And it may be now, it may be today, it may be next week, it may be whenever, but they do call when they are ready. And one thing that I know about networking, it's not always who you're talking to, but who they know.
Yeah.
And a lot of people know today, somebody who's buying or selling a house, boy oh boy, wouldn't they want to get just 1%?
Yes, I would assume so. And I know we're not here to talk about my 1% on the selling side of it. Maybe we can talk about that next time.
Okay, we will.
I want to focus on the buying side for this one, but of course, if you're selling a home, and a lot of people are buying and selling a home, we charge the same price for our representation regardless. So it's 1% whether you're buying or selling.
And so when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about how much money you save them, because really that's what they want to know, right? And
Yeah.
obviously 1% right there, you know you're saving money, right? And
Right.
again, he specializes in helping buyers and sellers make more money and lower their monthly payments, and I think that's number one right there, lowering that monthly payment. Again, he is valley-wide, he does free consultations. You can check him out on his website, which is just1az.com. Put this phone number in your phone, maybe it's you or someone that you know. It's 602-768-2767. He does free consultations. Again, his website, which is going to help you learn all about him, it is just az.com. My board operator's got to give me a break here. Here we go. So the most important thing is that when you hear something like this, please, if it's not you, tell someone about it, because people today, everybody wants to get some more money in their pocket, and that is what it's all about. Hang tight. We'll be back in just a minute. How'd you like me? How,
Very good.
so far, okay,
Fun.
good, great.
I'm having fun.
See,
You
now
having fun?
Yeah,
Good.
see, I know you would. And, we're still live in this room because we're live on Facebook. So, you know, and we're gonna talk about this when we come back live on the air. But I am wondering, in general, how much money do you save people?
Well, it depends obviously on the contract price of the home and how much the sellers are offering. But let's say on an average transaction is about $450,000, right in the middle of the median market here. So if I'm charging 1% and the average seller is offering 2.5%, what they're collecting is somewhere between $6,000 and $7,000. And it's not even just a savings, that's money that's coming from the seller and they can use to credit down their closing costs or their mortgage rate. Now, the real question is, if you take that money and apply it to a loan, how much are your monthly payments going down? And typically they're going down anywhere between $200 and $300 a month. So it could be $250 to $350 depending on how much they're borrowing. Because if you have a large down payment too, the effects of this are actually lower. But if you're doing a lower down payment, like a 5% down, the effects are significantly higher, and you can lower your monthly payment easily $300 a month, and that's a permanent buy down. So.
Okay, and is it any size, does it matter with you?
No, it doesn't matter as to the size of the house or anything like that. Of course, you know, most of our clients are the ones that really need that difference. So if you're the sort of person where $200 or $300 a month is really make or break for you, those are our perfect clients.
I'm gonna ask you that right here on the
Yeah.
air, okay?
Since 2003, Options for Senior Living has been answering that question for thousands of Valley families. Options for Senior Living provides a no-cost guidance program that
Okay,
helps you secure
that's
the right
exactly what
long-term
I'm
care
gonna do.
solution for your loved one. The team at Options has
Okay.
been the leaders in the industry for more than 2 decades.
Yeah.
With
Um,
500 successful
And you know, with this kind of a thing, I think that you never know when somebody's gonna reach out to you for this. It's one of those things. But I do think that in this time, this is a good time for you to be on, and you didn't even know when we spoke,
No.
you know, what was going on.
No, it's been a tumultuous time in the,
You know,
but ironically, it's actually lowered interest rates.
Yeah, okay,
So,
that's great, but they've been hit so hard, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? So, and also I wanted to ask you, do you work with investors at all?
yes, I work with a lot of investors,
Uh-huh.
especially flippers that are flipping houses, because obviously their margins are tight, and they need to, I work with them mostly on the listing side, so after they're done with the flips, then they call me up, list the houses, we sell them for 1%.
Well, we'll talk about that too.
Yeah, we can do that as
We
well.
have a lot of investors too that listen. Okay. So welcome back, everyone. We're talking with Patrick Kaiser, and he's the owner of Just 1%. That's what we've been talking about here for the last 15 minutes. Brokered by My Home Group. He's told me before he came on, specializes in helping buyers and sellers make more money and lower their monthly payments. At the break, I was sort of talking to you a little bit about this, and this is what I want to ask you on air now is, who is your ideal client?
Perfect client for me is someone where $200 or $300 a month really matters to them.
And who can say that $200 or $300 a month right now wouldn't matter to them?
I would think that it would matter to everybody, but you would be surprised. There are people out there that have so much money that they're not really
That
worried
is true.
about.
Thank you. I went to meet one of you, but anyway, go ahead.
They are out there, but really if you're, especially a first-time homeowner, or even a second time you're moving into another house, you need to sell one house and buy another one, and you get a quote from a lender that says, hey, the home that I want to buy is $2,800 a month, and that's too much. And that might be either, you might actually not qualify, or it might just be more than you want to pay. And if we can say, hey, let's take a look and see if we can get some seller concessions, combine that with my 1% buyer agency program, buy down your loan rate, and get your monthly payment down to $2,500. And if that's something where that really matters to someone, then those are the perfect clients for us that we deal with like every day of the week.
His number is 602-768-2767. He does do free consultations. He is valley-wide. You can check him out on his website. It's just the number 1az.com. And I do want to say that you're probably one of the only ones who's doing this right now.
I'm the only one that I know about, so I'm sure there must be other people out there that are doing something, but to my knowledge, no one else is doing it.
But this is huge,
Yeah.
and it's really helping people. I think that's what. So thank you for doing it. Number one, but I also asked you with the type of people that you work with. Do you also help investors?
Yes, I
Because there's a
work,
lot of people that have way more than one home.
yes, so if you're an investor, let's say a flipper, I work with a lot of flippers, mostly on the listing side. They have a tendency to buy their properties off the MLS most of the time, so then once they're done flipping it, they'll call me up. Of course, we do the photos and the listing, and we charge 1% for that every day of the week, and historically, that's been a huge portion of my business. Now, on the opposite side of those, not the flippers, but those who own, let's say, investment portfolios of rentals or something like that, or even banks that have portfolios of properties that maybe not performing too well that need to offload, of course, the price is always 1%, so, and we do a very good job for that price. I think a lot of people, when they hear that it's 1%, they're thinking, this is a discount agency, this is something where they're doing a bad job or cutting services, but for years I've been saying that it's not a discount. I'm not a discount person, I just charge what I charge and I do a great job for that price. So I've never, ever one time considered myself a discount agent or even considered what it would be compared to the other agents so much as this is just what I do and I do a great job for the price that I charge.
Well, so it less is more today, right? And
Mhm.
so that's what I see. I do not consider when somebody's helping out other people, which is really what you're doing, ends up being very nice for yourself as well, right?
Yes. Well, obviously, we're here to make a profit as a business.
Right, right.
But the goal is always, both whether you're listing or selling, to put the most amount of money that we can into their pockets. So if you're listing a home, obviously, if we charge you less, then you're going to net more. It's basic math. That's just the way it works.
Go ahead.
If you're buying a home, of course, we try to get as much from the seller, both between our commission structure and then concessions that come from the seller in order to help you buy down your interest rate. So regardless, we're trying to keep as much money in the pockets of our clients as we can.
Well, and right now, like we said, we were talking about this volatile market, and you said, well, what the funny thing is that it sort of lowered the rates a little
Yeah.
bit, right? So, but even though those are lower, would you like to get even more money in your pocket, right?
Well, and the real thing is a lot of people have been sitting on the sidelines for the last couple of years because interest rates have been anywhere between 6 and 7%. So there's been a lot of people who renting was cheaper for them than buying. And no one could fault them for renting the last couple of years. If you were renting a house for $2,100 or $2,200 a month and purchasing that same house, all things considered, would cost you $27 or $28, people are just sitting on the sidelines. And I know that a lot of people are hurting with the stock market decline, but unfortunately for my business, it's actually been pretty good because the interest rates have finally fallen. So investors are leaving the stock market and heading to safer investments, mostly treasury bills, and the interest rates for mortgages are traditionally based more closely to T-bills. So we've finally seen interest rates dropping down into the high fives for the first time in the last 3 years. So when we're combining that with the other, with my business and seller concessions now, my clients are seeing interest rates, of course this is dependent on the client and their credit, but we're seeing people in the low fives. So we're able to buy that interest rate down to 5.1, 5.2, 5.3%, and all of a sudden the difference between rent and mortgages now at that rate, it's similar enough where we're seeing a lot of people jump off the sidelines that have been renting for the last couple of years.
And I also asked you, any size?
Any size, yeah, it doesn't matter regardless of the size as long as it is real estate. And what I mean by that is it cannot be a mobile home. We don't deal with mobile homes as those are titled as vehicles. And other than that, there is no real limitation except for the geographic limitation. I work in the greater Phoenix metro area, so I don't service Tucson or Sedona or Flagstaff, anything like that.
So, but he is valley-wide here in Phoenix, and you can call him direct at 602-768-2767. And the only way you're gonna know is to sit down and have that conversation with him and start off with that. Again, I implore anyone who either is selling or buying a home to talk to him, or even if you know somebody, let them talk to them and find out before they just do anything. Find out what he can do for you, because it might be very nice.
I want to talk about the phone number. You keep mentioning this phone number, but what I want to say about that phone number is that is my direct cell phone
Oh, I thought
number.
I was saying it wrong. I
No,
started to get
no.
verklempt there for a minute. Go ahead.
But it is my direct cell line, so you're not dealing with a major tech company. We don't have thousands of people at a phone bank calling over, and I think that's a benefit to people. If you call that phone number, you will reach me directly. When you get in the door, I'm the one that does all the buyer consultations, and you're going to work basically directly with me. Now, I don't go out and show every single house. because obviously the valley's too wide and my time is too limited. So I have agents that show houses for me quite a bit, but the portion of it with the contract and the inspections and the negotiations and all of that comes directly through me. And the only portion of it that you're not dealing directly with me is if I'm not available, or if it's in a portion of the valley that I don't live in, then I have other agents that go out and show the houses for me. And I think that's actually a benefit. So if you have, you want to go out and see houses on a Thursday afternoon, I'm gonna find an agent that's gonna meet you at the time that you wanna go see houses, and we're gonna get you in to see the houses you wanna see.
Just 1%. You can check him out on his website. It's just the number 1az.com. Again, that number is 602-768-2767. So how much can you save somebody?
Well, it's pretty common for me, especially on the buying side, to see their monthly payments being lowered between $200 and $400 a month. And that's what we've been
There's
seeing.
nothing wrong with that. When you
No.
like that in your pocket,
Yep.
finally somebody, I think I said it at the break, somebody had to think about this, and I
Yeah.
think it's awesome that you're offering that, because it helps everybody.
Well, the settlement took place last August, and again, we don't have time to go into the history of my business, but I was doing 1% listings on the listing side for the last 6 years. And after the settlement took place, I was charging my sellers 1%, I was charging my buyers 2.5%, which was basically what all the sellers were still offering it. That's the way we've been doing business. And I just felt uncomfortable with it. I felt uncomfortable that I was charging the buyers more
That's funny.
than the sellers, and of course my name was already just 1%, so it didn't really fit. So I just decided I had to do it because of the nature of my business, and then we just did it. And then we've only actually started doing the 1% on the buyer side at the beginning of this year.
Okay.
So we're really just getting rolling with it now, but it's been extremely popular. We get a lot of calls, and we get a lot of people, coming through the door wanting to go out and see houses, and especially the last week, we've seen a huge uptick in people coming off the sidelines wanting to buy houses this summer.
And his perfect client again is?
Anyone who wants to save money, and if you say to yourself, well, that's everybody,
Mhm.
you would be surprised. There are millionaires out there that might want someone driving them around in a Maserati or a Ferrari. I don't drive a Ferrari, so if that's your experience you're looking for, it's not me and it's not a good fit. But if you're a first-time homeowner or someone that needs to really, keep those monthly payments down, if you're selling another house and buying one, then $200 or $300 matters to you, $400 a month, then you would definitely be a perfect client for me, and give me a call, because, as you said earlier, I'm probably the only one doing it.
And when they work with you, is it the same where they sign that contract?
Yes.
Right? It's
Yes,
all.
we
What's
all
that
have to.
look like? Okay, go
So,
ahead.
sorry to interrupt you, but
That's okay.
all agents are now required to sign those contracts with their clients prior to seeing homes, so we're not exempt from that in any way, shape, or form.
Mhm.
But the contract that we use is a non-exclusive contract, and what I mean by that is some or maybe even most agents are using an exclusive contract, which is more similar to a listing agreement, where you employ them for, let's say 60, 90, or 180 days, and you're tied to that agent for the time of that contract. I don't use exclusive contracts because I feel like if you don't like working with me, then that's fine, let's part ways and you can go find another agent. So I use a non-exclusive contract where really you only owe me a commission if we close on a house together.
Okay.
So if somebody comes to me and we're not a good fit, and it happens, there's 60,000 licensed agents out there, so sometimes we click, sometimes we don't. But if you don't like me, we part ways. I wish you on the best, and you can go work with any agent that you choose.
Well, but sounds like a likable guy to me, and especially I told him I would mention his shirt. He's got the most gorgeous, they're peacock blue, but they are flamingos.
Yes.
They're the most beautiful. It's a really nice shirt. I wanted to tell you that on air.
Well, and I appreciate it. My son, he's 2. He likes to go pick out shirts for me, and I love to wear them because he chose them.
They are beautiful. So you can check him out, because you know what? He is helping everybody out there. Just 1%. If you or someone that you know, and I'm telling you, I don't care if you're a millionaire or not, everybody wants to be able to save some money and have more money in their pocket no matter who you are. He specializes in helping buyers and sellers make more money and lower their monthly payments. That's the biggest thing, and I love that you do that. Thank you for what
Tell
you
a
do.
friend.
Tell them, whether it's you or someone that you know. Again, his number is 602-768-2767. You can check him out on his website. It's just the number 1az.com.